Welcome to the Krusty Fox and Season 2, Episode 12 of Sex and the Shitty. This week we're smiling through the agony with an installment called La Douleur Exquise, or The Exquisite Pain. Expect a bit of this. This.
No, you didn't.
And of course, this.
You're always going your fucking taxi, and then you're on a plane to France for maybe a year, or you're a freaking old man.
Remember that if this video hurts so good, you should drop a like and subscribe for more every week. And check out the link on screen now for a playlist of the whole throbbing mess from the very start. We open on the titular new S&M themed restaurant, which Samantha's PR firm is hosting the opening of. After being told that the dress code is kinky, Charlotte rocks up with kinked hair, and it's difficult to tell whether she's making a kind of nod wink wink joke or is genuinely the most naive person in the city. A title she'll retain until Anna Delvey starts making friends, at least.
I do not have time for this. I do not have time for you.
Inside with the other ladies, and a visibly uncomfortable Stanford, Charlotte labels the leather gear all around her humiliating and claims not to have a fetish of her own. I think somebody needs to teach her what fin dom and fin sub mean.
My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I'd like to see you wiggle wiggle.
This leads to another spectacular schooling from Samantha, who blithely informs her that what she's seeing is healthy sexual expression from people who aren't ashamed to let it all out. Unlike Charlotte, of course, whose only experience of public sexuality is sitting above the wheel arch on the bus and hoping for a speed bump. Carrie has to duck out because Big is flying to Paris for work in the morning, and this is her last chance to fill her gaslighting tank enough to last until his return. The next morning, Big admits that he might need to move to France for up to a year.
Wait.
And unwittingly releases the car reckon. Stanford, it transpires, is living a secret double life online under the username Rick9+. If the second part of that handle is intended to mean what I think it is, then what we're seeing is a very early draft of Catfish with even more use of creative license. We get a funny little window into turn of the millennium internet life here, with Stanford frequenting chat rooms where he anonymously explores his thing for underwear. His favourite chat buddy is user Big Tool for You, a detail which absolutely sent me because it's the realest thing in the show's entire 6-season run.
I've gone through your computer's browser history, and you seem to have a type.
The next day, Charlotte's attention is grabbed by a shoe store's window display, and she rushes inside like someone just told her they were staging a book burning. There, she meets persistent assistant Buster, whose spontaneous half-price offer on a pair of expensive sandals isn't questioned because Charlotte's privilege is so dazzlingly white that it blinds her. At a brunch that threatens to turn into a lynch mob, Carrie vents about Big's blasé attitude to putting an ocean between them.
I wanted to kill him.
Presumably because the tracker she implanted under his skin only works up to 10 miles. Her issue is that she wasn't a part of his decision-making process, but I'd guess that the hair trigger volcanic fury she barely keeps in check probably factored in somewhere. Back home, and channeling her murderous anger into a new column, she decides that her relationship with Big is like S&M. Carrie obviously identifies herself as the masochist in that equation, but frankly, which of them is playing the sadist flips more often than a mattress at a whorehouse. She ponders how even a relationship formed around pain has its own clear limits, and turns this into her headline. In relationships, how do you know when enough is enough? Elsewhere, Miranda is out on a date with Jack, who she met through their shared love of historical fiction, a sentence so utterly boring that half my internal organs fell asleep as I said it. Thankfully, Jack spices things up a bit by revealing that his thing is for bumping uglies outdoors, where they might get caught. Miranda finds herself unexpectedly game, and before long is a sex tourist in her own city, taking in moving taxis, restaurant bathrooms, and hotel elevators, even the alleyway outside Mark Twain's house. While she's having her Huckleberry Finn seen to, Carrie's having a polar opposite experience by counselling Stanford over drinks. He confesses to both his cyberspace sexy times and his worry that Big T won't think he lives up to expectations in real life. While this is a sympathetic moment for Stanford, it's not without its basis in reality. Let's be honest, he looks and dresses like a young Hans Moleman did about 2 semesters at fashion school. After sending Stanny back home to ruin his keyboard some more, Carrie downs a few more cocktails and calls Big in Paris. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, being on a different continent does nothing to stop her from making sure you never have a good night's sleep again. After a drunken verbal beasting in which she manages to both call him old,
Well, you're a freaking old man. You should be thinking about somebody else.
and rattle off some half-baked female empowerment talking points,
I am a woman. A wo-man.
he hangs up. She immediately realises that she's found and unwisely crossed the line with Big, which would have happened about an hour into the first date for literally anybody else. Meanwhile, Charlotte's back at Buster's shoe shop and doing a poor job of pretending it's for something other than the prospect of a further discount. She gets more than she bargained for when he offers to comp a new pair in return for her allowing him to rub her feet. Naturally, little Miss Prim and Proper is perfectly happy to let him get his foot fetish fix, in spite of spending most of her life acting as though it's a Jane Austen remake called Pride and Prejudice and anything other than missionary makes you a whore. Before we move on, I do just want to draw your attention to this toe ring of Charlotte's. I know it was the 90s, but there will never be an excuse good enough. It isn't until Carrie and Miranda give Charlotte an overdue reality check about the situation that she realises these shoes need to be returned. That's also after she walked the streets of Manhattan in them, and having been there myself, I was surprised that she didn't have to scrape 9 miles of chewing gum and the contents of an overflowing sewer off them first. Things take a sharp left turn when Buster instead offers her a trade. Keep the shoes, but earn them by modelling some new pairs he just received. Apparently 6 is his limit though, because that's when he busters a nut right in front of a horrified Charlotte and brings their little arrangement moaning to a halt. When Big returns from Paris, Carrie is at his door within the hour, dressed and speaking like an adult Madeline in the grip of psychosis.
Bonjour. Voilà le Frenchat. Voilà le French pie.
Ever reliable, Big quickly anchors her back to reality by taking her apology for their earlier argument as the launching pad for a new one. He tells her not to consider moving to Paris just for him, or to expect that it would mean anything even if she did, resulting in one of their better fights due to it including projectile filet-o-fish.
I am such an idiot.
She storms back home and finally acknowledges that the bigger twat between the two of them is her, for allowing him to act the way he does and always going back for more. I mean, just like all of her sensible moments, it's destined not to last, but at least we get 10 seconds of reason before the insanity resumes. Speaking of, Stanford gets even more screen time when he visits an underwear bar to meet his E-Wank pal. Are you, like I was, wondering why he's suddenly getting to exist independently? Reflect on the particulars of his storyline this episode, go look up who wrote it, then draw your own conclusions, just like I did. Faced with what a helpful sign labels a mandatory clothing check, Stanford disrobes down to his tighty-whities in a move that's good for overcoming his insecurities and for showing every guy in the room that his username is not to be taken literally. While he doesn't meet the mysterious big tool for you, he does meet a guy who admires his apparently French undercrackers in a scene which sells as much of a fantasy about gay men as the show usually does about straight women. At the same time, Miranda thinks she scored a victory by getting Jack to do it indoors, back at his apartment. That, like Jack, lasts all of 30 seconds when she realises that his eagerness to do it home style is because his parents are visiting, and tonight, they're the unwitting spectators. As Jack finishes, under his folks' mortified gaze, so too does his relationship with Miranda. Across town, Big turns up at Carrie's door, and after they spend a silent night together, she realises that it's over, because once again she wants more than he's willing or able to give. He leaves for Paris, setting up some of the show's more grim future storylines, not least the impending return of Skipper in a couple of weeks. I just want you to be prepared. Hey, congratulations, you're still watching! You win a prize. The prize is this smile. What? I didn't say you'd like it. If you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, subscribe for more every week, and share this video with a friend or Stanford will get his Rick 9 Plus out. Last week, I asked you whether Carrie should have made such a thing out of leaving her stuff at Big's apartment. Commenter Ree says no, and that she should stuff it in a drawer of her own back home. Probably best that she doesn't actually, she'd only get Samantha to reach in there and pull it all back out. This week's question is, would you get into a situation like Charlotte's little shoe arrangement if it meant some tit-for-tat freebies? Sound off in the comments below, and the best will make an appearance next time. Either way, thanks for watching, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.